and welcome to the HC Feedback Tool demo. With the application, we hope to provide students with actionable feedback and improvement steps on their HC applications, and that's how the web page looks. Let's start by talking about the structure of our app. First, we used CSS, HTML, and JavaScript for the front end, and Flask and Python for the back end. For the AI, we used Google's Gemini 1.5 Flash, and for databases, we used SQL Alchemy with SQLite, and then we deployed using Docker containerization on VPS. Here is the structure of the project. We have the archive the app folder, which contains the main parts of the app. Static with CSS and JavaScript, templates with HTML templates. AI has the main parts about integrating AI into the app, and utils have some files that were useful somewhere during the development but aren't necessarily in play all the time. We have tests. We thoroughly tested our application. With tests for every part of the project. And overall, the project has a clear separation of concerns and everything has its own file. The README has an outline for the structure. So it's all here, all thoroughly explained with instructions on how to deploy, how to test.
And I will be walking you through the basic user interface and navigation of our HC feedback system. So if we open up the main page of our application, we can find our sections, which is starting by all the cornerstone drop down, and then we have the HC examples where we have 3 buttons, and then we have the assignment portion that we need to get feedback on, and we have the request feedback. As you can see here, the user interface is designed to be intuitive and user-friendly. The HC selection dropdown allows users to filter by cornerstone, making it easy to find more relevant examples. The context addition feature helps the users to provide more details about their assignment, which improves the accuracy of our feedback. Also, the feedback submissions form is just so straightforward. Users can paste their text and submit it for analysis. The progress tracking section provides real-time updates on the analysis phase, so users know exactly what's happening. Once the analysis is done, then we can find the results display area shows the feedback shows the feedback and the scores in a clear and organized manner. Also, we have this button which is called View in HC Handbook. This should redirect us to the Choose in HC. For example, we have here the confidence interval, and when we click on View HC Handbook, we can find that we go to the confidence intervals in our HC Handbook in MyMinerva. And by this way, we will dive deeper into how users can add context and select HCs. I will hand it over to Takaya. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Takaya and I'll be showing you how to add context and select HCs in our AC feedback system. Adding context helps tailor the feedback to specific details of your application. As you can see here, adding context is simple. You just need to provide an assignment description like here and any existing context like here. This information is used to generate more accurate feedback. So we can save context, and next let's look at how to select HCs. The HC selection dropdown allows you to filter by cornerstone and choose specific HCs. So here we can filter by complex system first, and then we can select, for example, system mapping. If you click on View Example Footnotes, you can see general example and footnotes. This helps you pick up relevant application associated with that HC. In the next section, we'll dive into the feedback generating process. I'll hand it over to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elvion, and I'll be demonstrating the part where the AI does its magic, gets the text, and then analyzes it and provides actionable feedback. Without further ado, let's actually test this to action. I'm going to go ahead and actually work with some of my assignment that I've done in first year on applied, I believe that was emergent properties, and I'm just going to go ahead and ask the AI what it thinks about that application. In the meantime, what the app does in the background is, first of all, analyzes the input through this agent pre-check. So we'll demonstrate a little bit in the end what would this look in action if it fails, but essentially just making sure that all sentences are complete and there's no malfunctioning input, so to speak. And then after that, we move on to comparing the actual input to the HC criteria and common pitfalls through the agent evaluation script. And that will provide us with an evaluation score here and with actionable items that are categorized. And this is interesting because what we've done here is effectively give priority to different actionable steps. So critical is something that the AI thinks that you must fix, and this is like a bad application of the HC according to the AI here. I must fix like 10 of these suggestions, and then we have important, and then we have optional. But in this case, we don't have any optional items in here. So important is something that should fix, but maybe you'll get after it even if you don't. But yeah, that's the idea, and you'll see this in red, but more on that in the next part with Carl on why this is important and what the 80% rule actually means here. But back to the input validation, if we write something nonsensical here, the input validation will say, well, this is not meaningful and lacks academical content, so we need to revise that. This was my part. Next to the feedback generation, footnote generation with Carl.
Hey everyone, it's Carl, and I'm going to be demoing my personal favorite feature of our app, the footnote generator. This feature is immensely helpful for students like me so that I may maximize my scores through meaningful HC footnote applications. Let me show you how it works. We have levels of analysis here, and unfortunately, the evaluation score does not meet our 80% threshold. What does that mean? Recall that for our grading systems, we compare the input through each individual bullet point. And so we have an evaluator model that gives a pass or fail if it passes the specific criterion. So we use that as reference, and once it passes 80% worth, that's when it's activated. Now let me head to the demo version of our app where I allowed a threshold of anything greater than 1%. How does our footnote look like? It looks like this. It's still processed in the back end, and it really utilizes a personal first-person point of view so that our student or Minervans who will be using this can simply copy-paste and call it a day. Of course, with review, as explained through our terms and conditions, you have to review. Anyway, our score thresholds are determined through this env file, and our AI pipeline analysis or calculations are done in main.py. You can really see that it goes through the guided criteria and the pitfalls as I've shown in the page before. And the way our AI footnote agent works, I actually trained a lot of the footnote data in all of the HCs, so it will know what the most optimal way of writing footnotes will be. This is the prompt used, and it will be activated on click of the button, which will call our endpoint API footnote. You can even regenerate it if you don't like the footnote. Next, we'll discuss development process and feature plans. I'll hand it over to our next presenter. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ilnas, and I'll be discussing our deployment process, CI/CD pipeline, and future plans for the HC feedback system. Let's start with our development process and how we ensure continuous integration and deployment. Our development process follows agile methodology with weekly sprints. We use feature branches for new developments and ensure continuous integration with GitHub Actions. Here in the Actions tab, you can see our CI/CD pipeline. The deploy YAML file defines our workflow for continuous integration and deployment. It includes steps for checking out the repository, setting up Python, installing dependencies, building and pushing Docker images inside of deploy SQLite app here, and installing SSH Pass. And inside of deploy SQLite app, as I said before, we have creating containers for our Flask application as well as for NJINX service. Finally, we deploy the application to our virtual private server that is hosted on DigitalOcean Droplet. We have two separate droplets, one for production and the second one for development. This CI/CD pipeline ensures that our application is always up to date and running smoothly. Any changes pushed to the repository are automatically tested and deployed, reducing the risk of errors and downtime. For deployment, we use Docker to containerize our application. It makes it easy to manage and deploy across different environments. Let's take a look at our docker compose dev.yaml file. In our case, it will be production file. Here we define the services for our application, including the web server and database. We specify networks and volumes to ensure proper communication. Our virtual private server on the production droplet, we have our CS162 HC feedback project that we can cd into. CS162 HC feedback. We can see that we have all our files, Docker file and Docker compose prod.yaml file. We also created our own .env file that I will not be showing, but to manage the configuration of our SSL certificates and other NJINX related configurations, we also created a file that will be used here for NJINX configurations. So here we can see that we have our etc njnx conf d directory. Here we have hc feedback conf file, and in there we can open it using sudo nano hc feedback.conf, and it also has all of the relevant configuration for the private key that we'll be using for SSL certificates and other configurations that are relevant for our domain. Using Docker and Docker Compose in general, we can easily manage our application services and ensure consistent environments across development, testing, and production. Looking ahead, we have several future plans for HC feedback system, enhanced AI model fine-tuning to improve feedback accuracy, additional cornerstone support to cover more HC examples or even low examples, extended feedback customization to provide more tailored guidance. I think these improvements will make our application even more valuable for students looking to improve their HC application. And thank you for watching our demo. We hope you found it informative and helpful.